Welcome to Talking Giants Player Profiles and Projections. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, today with my co-host, Justin Pennick, brought to you by Captain Morgan. And today we're looking at Daniel Bellinger, tight end, and edge Azeez Ojulari. Justin, these were two guys who came in as rookies, as starters, and now have been, their roles diminished. But we're going to start with Daniel Bellinger, 6'5", 253 pounds, 23 years old. In year 3, he was a fourth-round pick in 2022. His stats were very similar in back-to-back years. Last year, his rookie year had 30 catches, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns on an 85% catch rate, right? That's really high, and a rushing touchdown. Last year in 5 more games played, he had 25 catches, 255 yards, no touchdowns, but on an 89% catch rate. So Bellinger is a well-rounded tight end who is a plus blocker and a solid enough receiver. But he is someone that the Giants have tried to upgrade from the last 2 years in Darren Waller and now Theo Johnson.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think Daniel Bellinger as a 4th-round draft pick and for what he's asked to do, I think he's a successful draft pick.
Yes.
And I view him as a stabilizing force to a Giants offense the last 2 years because of the lack of offensive line help that they have. I view him as a necessary and imperative stabilizing force over the last 2 years. Does that mean that I think he's great and dynamic, or even I don't even think he's a great and dynamic blocker, but I think his presence on this team, at least over the last 2 years, has been necessary, and I think he deserves to stay and have a role on this team even moving forward, even if it's diminished.
Yeah, even his rookie year when he missed those games, there was some correlation to him, being on and off the field with some scoring. What were the difference with and without him in points per game in 2022?
The Giants in 2022 with Bellinger, they had 22.8 points per game. That would have been 14th in the National Football League. And then 2022 Giants without Daniel Bellinger, 18.2 points per game. So that's a 4-point difference, and that is the difference between 14th with him and 25th in the league without him.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you saw the run game struggle without him. It wasn't all due to him, but there was a part of that, right? In line, it was huge, and then using him as a move and lead blocker. Now, I do think that he is being there's going to be a lot less on his plate last year when Waller was on the field, and now with the addition of Theo Johnson, I do think he has put into more of a small, a important role, but not a big part of the offense role, right? No. Where it's lead blocking, inline blocking, then catching everything short. And I mean, it is I don't care how low your average depth of target is. He does catch everything that goes his way, right? Only one non-running back with a higher catch rate than him in 2022, and then his catch rate went up from 85% to 89% and led the NFL in catch rate for non-running backs last year, right?
The only difference is that even though his yards per reception went up, Bobby, from 8.9 to 10.2, the success rate went down to 39.3. And his success rate in 2022 was 68.6. So, I mean, he was never going to replicate 68.6%, but I would like to find a little happy medium, maybe a little bit in the 40s with Daniel Bellinger. But I think it goes to show that, 2022, Bellinger showed, there was good, solid stuff from Daniel Bellinger from the standpoint of his role, which is low average depth of target, reliable, keep an offense on schedule. I almost view Daniel Bellinger as almost like an extension of the run game in the as a receiver. You're not going to average anything crazy yards per reception wise, but just be reliable. But you mentioned the addition of Theo Johnson may have an impact on Bellinger's usage. I think the addition of Chris Manhertz could have a bigger impact on Daniel Bellinger's usage or non-usage this year.
Yeah, the thing Bellinger has going for him again that Chris Manhertz doesn't. One is, even though we're going to talk about Bellinger's receiver, and it's not great, right? It's reliable, but it's not great. He does have some receiving value where Chris Manhertz has none. I think Bellinger had more yards last year than Manhertz has in his entire career, and also Manhertz has never lined up in the backfield and been a move in space blocker. And Bellinger is really the only guy on the team that can do it this year.
Yep, and I have numbers on that when we get to it.
And even last year, he actually played 114 more snaps last year, despite having Waller on the team. But again, he missed 5 games in 2022. Mm-hmm. But He had a 62% snap share last year versus 72% snap share. Like he also only played 6 snaps for Seattle when he got hurt, right? Like the 3 games when he was healthy, there was only 3 games when he was healthy, not getting more than 50% of the snaps. And even though Waller missed time, he only missed 6 games, right? He played 7 snaps less per game this year than he did the year before. He was on the field 36 times per game when Waller was on the field. So he still had a role on last year's team despite the addition. And we knew that he would. But I think there was a lot of excitement for Bellinger coming after year one. And when we did this player profile episode last year, it's like, hey, I like Bellinger, but he's just not going to be really much of a threat in the receiving game, right? No, even as a rookie, he was 37th of 42 tight ends in yards, 40th of 42 in yards per route run, 40th of 42 in average depth of target. And last year it was very similar, right? 37th in yards, 38th of 46 in yards per route run, 44th of 46 in average depth of target. He is not someone that you are really involving much in the pass game. He's a technician catching the ball, snagging the ball out of the air, making tough catches. Only 2 drops in his first 2 seasons. He'll run that sit route in the middle of the field and box out a defender. He has the high point, plays in the red zone like the Ravens. The Ravens game is rookie year, the Vikings 2-pointer in the regular season. But he just doesn't give you really anything past 10 yards. He has 8 targets, 10-plus yards in 2 years, and 0 targets, 20-plus yards. And those targets are kind of like out of the backfield, 3rd and long, like little corner routes.
Yeah, I was kind of even say I think some of those targets have come with him lined up in the backfield as a fullback, not even as like an inline tight end with your hand in the dirt, or even especially forget like I kind of do roll my eyes a little bit when they put Daniel Bellinger out there lined up like out wide as a receiver. I'm like, this is not showing any kind of threat. Like, I'm not wincing as a defense when Daniel Bellinger goes out there. If anything, I'm viewing it as an advantage because he's just not going to get open. So,
or it's just not even going to be part of really the progression.
No. So it's one guy you don't have to worry about.
But as a blocker, like the block and releases in the receiving game work with him because of the blocking prowess. But he's a solid blocker, whether inline or as a move blocker. But he's actually better as a move blocker. But that's going to be his main role in this team because Theo Johnson, we're recording this before the first preseason game. One of the things I'm looking out for him is an inline blocker. Here's what Bellinger has going against him outside of just like the lack of receiving value. He's not this ass-kicking inline blocker.
He kind of regressed last year.
He's a solid inline blocker, right? Inline blocking as a tight end is really hard in the NFL. Tackles have hard time blocking these defensive ends. So you cannot ask perfection, but if you're not making yourself a name as a receiver, to continuously to play, you just got to be really good in there. And he's solid. He's just not a total ass kicker as a blocker, but he's solid. You can trust him. There are some you won't really for him because he's never going to be Chris Manhertz as an inline blocker. But we need to get rid of the really negative ones that he had last year. But I think Bellinger is someone who plays a long time in the NFL, has a role between 30 to 55% of the snaps every year, depending on what team he's on. Mm-hmm. It's just the idea that he was going to turn into this like Pro Bowl level tight end. I think part of it was the RAS score, which compare him to Travis Kelce, and that's just not fair to him. He's not that type of athlete. But he's reliable. And again, I think when you get a 4th round pick and you can just say, hey, should live out his rookie contract, brings value. That to me is a successful pick. It's not
a win.
There's obviously bigger success stories, but that is a successful pick for me.
Yeah, well, no, 100%. And again, I view Daniel Bellinger as a stabilizing force on this offense. And one of the things that we said during last year's PPP, Bobby, is they started to do this thing where they would put Bellinger as this H-back fullback in the backfield. And you saw some of the big plays down the Giant stretch. Think of him coming out of the backfield against the Colts, him coming out of the backfield against the Vikings, where there were some 20-plus yard plays on an offense that was dying for 20-plus yard plays.
And he's vital to their run game, too.
Right, so I'm going to go through the snaps. In 2022, Daniel Bellinger took 21 snaps as a fullback, 19 snaps in the final 6 games of the season. So that was a big talking point about Bellinger last year. He'll be used as an inline blocker. He'll help out Darren Waller. But also when you want to put Waller out on the field as a tight end, you could put Bellinger in the backfield, and that is a way that you can keep both of them on the field at the same time. Well, that number in 2023 went up to 82 total snaps in the backfield. That's an average of almost 5 per game, and 12% of his total snaps were spent in the backfield last year, which I can see something very similar this year. There's more wide receivers on the roster that you want to rely on. Maybe Dable wants to run more 11 personnel. We're not going to go, so run heavy with 12 personnel, but I can see 5 snaps per game, Daniel Bellinger lining up as a, in the backfield.
Yeah, and I'm even looking at right now because I want to see. It was even more when Waller was on the team, right? When he had like 7, 6, 7, none week. Oh, he got injured week 4. 3, 13. Then Waller gets injured and then comes back, and they didn't do it much at the end of the year. But at the end of the year, they really were getting a little more explosive and trying to spread things out as an offense. But yeah, he's vital to the run game, right? Like 2022, the big part of that run game, Bellinger was a big part of that. Huge. He was a big part of that. So Bellinger, glad he's on the team. I'm sure it's frustrating for him that his role is being reduced, but I do think it's smart for the Giants to look for better receiving options out there, but also valuing Daniel Bellinger. Right. This idea that he was some cut candidate is that's wild to me. And if the Giants did that, I would be furious.
Yep.
But I do think they're looking for more out of their wide tight end spot.
Yeah, for sure. And they have that in Theo Johnson. And I think Daniel Bellinger is a fine compliment as a number 2. And I don't think that is a bad thing. That is a compliment.
Absolutely. Justin, why don't you talk to us about something?
I'll talk to you about something. You know what Daniel Bellinger is? He's reliable.
Like Captain Morgan reliable.
Reliable Daniel Bellinger. Hopefully, hey, I want him here. Like, live out your rookie contract. Get a decent little tight end 2 deal and stay on the Giants. I would like some stability at tight end, right? Let's make a Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger pair for years to come. And you want to know what's a really good pairing on game days? You, football, and Captain Morgan. That's right. We've partnered with Captain Morgan. They're sponsoring our entire summer. And did you know that Captain Morgan is the original spiced rum of the NFL? When it gets bland, try Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum. It's delicious and crisp. It's perfect for game day with your friends. It's time to spice it up. You deserve it. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company in New York. New York, Bobby Skinner. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Let's talk about Azeez Ojulari. And Azeez has kind of been forgotten with the addition of Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau's season last year, and the fact that Azeez played bad last year in the games that he did play. But I'm like really fascinated by his career so far. Yeah. He's 6'2", 255 pounds, 24 years old, heading into the final year of his rookie deal after being a second-round pick in 2021. The only remaining member of the 2021 Giants draft class.
Crazy.
It's official with Aaron Robinson gone.
Crazy.
And just look at some of the box score stats. His rookie year, played the full 17 games, 49 tackles, 8 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. Good rookie year. Year 2, 7 games, 14 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. That's pretty good for 7 games. And then last year in 11 games, 16 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss. And it wasn't just the box score stats. I don't know what happened with Azeez. I don't know if he was injured again and the injuries were affecting him more. But he was legitimately good in 2022 when he was more and he was more injured that year, and he just played the worst year of his career. And it's again not like pressure rate from rookie year to third year, 6.3%, 9.3%, which is pretty good. Then 5.5%. Pass rush win rate, 6.7% rookie year. Where we're like, he's getting the sacks. We got to get that up. He fucking got it up the next year, 11.1%, and then 5.5% last year. It seemed like he didn't have the same bend, the same, get off. He wasn't really showing any power. And he went from this guy where it's like, hey, I know he didn't play a lot last year, but his on-pace numbers, his metrics are really freaking good, and the team played so much better when he was out there on the field.
It's crazy.
To last year, he was just invisible. I don't know how you go from that or that baseline of solid play as a rookie to just invisible, which Azeez did last year.
He ended the year with 2.5 sacks. How many did he have heading into the Philadelphia Eagles game? The last game of the season.
Well, I'll say 1.
He had half a sack. So it truly was a disappearing act. And then he had 2 sacks against the Eagles when the Giants kicked the shit out of him. Remember that? That was fun. So, dude, I don't know. There probably isn't a better playing with house money player on this roster right now than Azeez Ojulari. Because really, from Joe Shane's standpoint, didn't draft him. But the 50th overall pick of the 2021 draft in the second round, like a high leverage pick for the organization as a whole, but he's on the last year of his rookie deal this year, correct?
Yes.
So you want to talk about a dude that is flat out just playing with house money. It is Azeez Ojulari, where the organization could get nothing out of him this year, and then they move on, and then Azeez Ojulari is just a bookmark, an unfortunate bookmark, where we talk about his rookie year. We talk about that stretch in 2022 where it was legit production for the last for like 6-7 games.
I want to show you this, like the 17 game rate of 2020.
Right, or he moves on after this year. And or he could even stay and then be part of like this trio of edge rushers, which would be cool if this core was here for a little bit.
Yeah, and like his 17 game rate in 2022 was
numbers on this
13 sacks, 17 QB hits, and 22 pressures. Right, you're like, oh, the pressures aren't amazing, but that's a lot of sacks and a lot of quarterback hits.
And he didn't play.
4 of the 7 games that he played less than 50%.
Right, and because he was
so you're not going to get a ton of pressures in the games you're playing. He
wasn't healthy in 2022. The crazy thing about Azeez heading into 2023,
he was playing games while injured.
We were wondering, well, if he stays healthy, then imagine what he could do. Because even in 2022, he was out for the portion of the summer. Was it a calf, a hamstring? Or I feel like every year he has the calf hamstring injury during the summer. But then he comes back, he's playing hurt, and he's insanely productive. And let's just look at this.
He had a higher pressure percentage than Dexter Lawrence that year, who was an all-pro.
Let's just look at this. Among defenders with 130 snaps, which is not a large sample size, but that's what you need to do with Azeez in 2022. He was 15th in pass rush productivity in 2022, 50th out of 125 edge rushers in win rate. Now, true pass sets, Bobby, he was 4th in pass rush productivity, and he was 24th in win rate. That's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, like he had more Like, think about how good Dex was in 2022. On a per snap basis, Azeez Ojulari got to the quarterback more often than Dexter Lawrence did, or pressured or hit him, whatever. So, in 2022, the feet were always good, and showed that off again. Right, you saw the bend there. He added some power element to his game. He's never going to be a power player, but he did add some of it, and his hand usage was just much improved to disengage blocks. Where last year it just totally fell apart. Right. Like last year, he was 64th out of 76 edges in pass rush productivity, 73rd of 76 in win rate. That's awful.
Ranks near Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, that's awful. And there's still issues setting the edge in the run game. But I will say all that. We've been watching him in camp a little bit, and I have focused on him. He's got the bend, right? He's shown off the bend a good bit. I am excited to hit for, like you said, house money, this third edge role. There's not big expectations to just come in as a that third rusher, right? You're not going to ask him to be on the field on rundowns, essentially. And he's been a guy who's been able to literally change games. His plays were game changers the year before.
And even his rookie year had some really flash plays as well.
Yeah, I mean, 8 sacks as a rookie.
His rookie year overall, I think it was. Now, Kayvon was also hurt at certain points there, but I think his rookie year overall was better than Kayvon Thibodeau's. He had double the sacks.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
Kayvon made more impact plays.
Kayvon had better games. Yeah, I would have taken Kayvon's rookie year over Azeez's.
So guess Azeez Ojulari just had a birthday. Just how old? How old did he just turn?
24.
24 years old.
I had that in my first line.
That's right. That is typically how you start these. But really, it's crazy, man. This is Azeez Ojulari in his 4th year, and if he is 20, if it goes right, it's a big if. If it goes right, and even if he's somewhat the player that he was his rookie year and then 2022, I mean, you're talking about a decent, good third edge rusher that the Giants could have on their team, and that is awesome. So
he's missed 16 out of 34 games the last 2 years, right? So my if is not him being healthy, because he's shown that he can't stay healthy, right? That's too big of an if for me. Where I get dumbfounded on this is not, the guy's never on the field. It's why was he so bad last year?
It just disappeared.
Why did he we talk about his rookie year, right? He had the sacks, but we need to be more consistent on a down and down up basis.
Yeah, there were a couple games where he played.
He was much worse than anything he did in his rookie year.
Yes.
Anything. What happened? What happened to do that? So this year, to me, it is like it's hard to project what you're going to get out of him. One, you don't know how often he's even going to be on the field when he plays. And what are you getting out of him? Are we getting rookie year, second year, which was nuts, or third year where you're just like, you're just a net negative. You don't do anything to help this team type of player. Like, I don't know what we get out of Azeez. And I could see his contract next year being anywhere from a vet minimum contract to a guy who gets $6-7 million per year if he plays the way he did 2 years ago. So I don't know if this is Azeez's last year on the team, if like he gets brought back. But it's just there's like so many different paths that you can see for happening for Azeez Ojulari. The frustrating part of that is that the one thing you have been able to rely on him the last couple of years is missing games.
No.
And we're not talking about 2 injuries that have caused him to miss games. I mean, he's had like 9 different injuries in the last 2 years.
I just wanted to compare Lorenzo Carter's cap number when he left the Giants.
I think it was like $3 million per year.
$2.5 million in 2022, and then the last 2 years 4.25, and then 4.75 mil.
I mean, he's been a much better player than what Lorenzo Carter ever was.
Yeah, Azeez has an opportunity, man, to either remain with the Giants and the Giants, reward him with some of his good play, or he could go elsewhere. I think he will get more than this. If he has a year where he does what he needs to do and he just doesn't disappear. If he has another half sack year through the first 16 weeks of the season, then yeah, it could get rough. But I'm rooting for a man like this. This is I can't name another player on the Giants that it's playing with more house money than Azeez Ojulari.
What do you think? What do you think a snap share is going to be with now that they have Brian Burns at it with Kayvon Thibodeau?
It was 60% last year, right?
Last year he got 60% of the snaps of the games he was in.
Playing, yeah. I think it goes down to 40 to 40.
I think 40 is perfect, right? Because you're probably going to put Burns and Kayvon on the field 80% of the time, and he takes that other 20% from each of them.
Yeah. You're going to put Boogie in there.
There'll be some 3 down, put all those guys on the field on 3rd down type stuff. What I'm excited to see is when they do get in the 3rd and long. And again, we don't know for a fact they'll do this, but I would like to just have Dex, Kayvon, Burns, and Azeez as the 4 on the field.
They could stack. I know LA does this.
Where you put Kayvon and Azeez on the edges, you put Burns,
them, right?
you put I don't have to do that, or you could line them both wide, but you have Dex in the middle, and you put either. I would put Burns on the guard. I think he's the quickest to shake the guards.
Yeah, sure.
All right, that's the player profile and projection. We will see you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.